What began as a normal promotional appearance instantly spiraled into one of the most explosive confrontations ever captured on late-night television. The night Denzel Washington walked onto Stephen Colbert's stage, nobody in the Ed Sullivan Theater had any idea they were seconds away from witnessing a moment that would shake viewers across the country. The theater buzzed with its usual pre-show energy. People took their seats, chatted with excitement, and prepared for an interview they assumed would be warm, friendly, and predictable. Denzel Washington was there to promote his new film, a powerful drama centered on redemption, forgiveness, and second chances. Critics were already calling it one of his strongest directorial projects, and the movie was gaining serious awards attention. This interview was meant to be an important part of that momentum. But behind the scenes, trouble was already brewing. According to people close to the production, Colbert's writing team had spent the entire afternoon preparing what they described as intense gotcha questions, the kind meant to trap Denzel, challenge him, and push him into uncomfortable territory. They wanted him cornered about his Christian faith and his personal views. Colbert, convinced the audience would support his direction, reportedly told producers he planned to challenge the narrative Denzel had been sharing during his promotional tour. As the familiar opening theme echoed through the theater, and Colbert delivered his usual monologue, nothing seemed out of place. The audience laughed on cue, clapped at the expected beats, and assumed this would be just another typical night. Meanwhile, backstage, Denzel's publicist was becoming uneasy. She had overheard enough of the host's rehearsed questions to know that something wasn't right. When Colbert finally introduced Denzel, the applause was thunderous. Denzel stepped onto the stage with dignity and calm confidence, giving his trademark warm smile as he shook the host's hand. The moment seemed completely normal, at least on the surface. The first few minutes moved along smoothly. They exchanged light jokes, talked casually about Denzel's film, and created the kind of easy energy audiences enjoy. Everything felt comfortable. Then came Colbert's first shift in tone. "So, Denzel," he began, leaning back with a smile that seemed polite on the outside but slightly tense underneath. "This new film explores forgiveness and redemption. Considering your own faith background, how did your beliefs shape the story?" Denzel answered with steady calm, speaking openly about how faith helps people understand forgiveness. He explained that his character was someone trying to rebuild his life after serious mistakes. The audience reacted positively. It was exactly the kind of thoughtful response people admired him for, but Colbert didn't seem satisfied. "Let's take that further," he said, his tone tightening. He brought up Hollywood, the idea of actors speaking about moral values, and questioned whether it felt ironic coming from an industry built on fantasy. A flicker of confusion appeared on Denzel's face. This wasn't the direction he had been promised. Denzel carefully replied that he wasn't trying to lecture anyone. He simply believed in being honest about who he was. He explained that he didn't force his beliefs on anyone and that he respected people's freedom to take what they wanted from his experiences. Colbert leaned forward again, sensing an opening. He pointed to controversial topics, marriage equality, women's rights, religion and politics, and suggested that Denzel avoided speaking about these issues publicly. He questioned whether staying silent was a way of having it both ways. The studio fell silent. This wasn't entertainment anymore. It was something sharper, something meant to provoke. Denzel's jaw tightened slightly, but his voice stayed level as he clarified that his faith taught him to love people, not judge them. He spoke about dignity, kindness, and staying true to himself, never claiming to be a political figure. But Colbert kept pushing. He insisted that silence was still a statement. He questioned whether Denzel's pastor had strong opinions and suggested that Denzel must agree with or reject those opinions privately. That's when the tension became impossible to ignore. Denzel asked with controlled frustration whether the interview was really about his film or simply an attempt to pressure him into political commentary for a viral moment. Nervous laughter rippled through the audience. Colbert didn't ease up. In fact, he pressed harder, claiming he wanted honest conversation from someone with influence. He accused Denzel of holding moral values publicly while avoiding what he considered the important issues. Denzel's posture changed. He sat straighter, his expression firm. He questioned who decided which issues mattered: Colbert, the audience, or the millions of regular people who simply came to enjoy a movie and feel something human. Colbert intensified the moment. He brought up democracy, rights, discrimination. He painted the world as being in crisis and insisted that public figures like Denzel had a responsibility to take a stand. The pressure was thick enough to feel in the air. For the first time, Denzel allowed his voice to sharpen. He denied ever claiming moral authority and reminded Colbert that he was simply sharing experiences. He accused the host of trying to force him into political categories to score points. Scattered applause erupted, mixed with uncomfortable silence. The room didn't know how to react. Colbert's face flushed. The dynamic had shifted, and the confrontation was spiraling. He asked if staying neutral on civil rights was really treating people with respect. That single question pushed everything over the edge. Before the audience could even process Colbert's accusation, Denzel slowly rose from his chair. The shift was subtle but powerful, and the entire studio felt it. His calm expression had hardened into something sharp and direct. It was clear he had reached a limit. He stood tall, his voice steady, but edged with real disappointment as he explained that he felt ambushed. He reminded Colbert that he had come with the understanding that the interview would focus on his film, not his personal political positions. The studio appeared frozen, unsure whether to gasp or stay silent. Colbert tried to regain control, telling Denzel to sit back down and insisting that they were just talking. But his tone was no longer friendly. It carried a sting, a frustration that only made the moment more volatile. He insisted Denzel was avoiding real questions, making the situation about the host instead of addressing the topics. Denzel didn't move. Instead, he stood with the confidence of someone who refused to be cornered. He pointed out that the real issue wasn't the questions, it was the way they were being delivered, the intention behind them, and the lack of respect shown throughout the conversation. The tension grew heavier. Some audience members exchanged uncomfortable glances, while others sat rigid, unsure how to react to a moment unlike anything they had ever witnessed on live television. Colbert's irritation cracked through his voice. He claimed Denzel was acting like he was too good for serious conversation. He accused him of refusing to take responsibility as a public figure. The host's frustration was now visible, his professional mask slipping piece by piece. For a moment, Denzel simply stared at him, almost in disbelief. Then, he reminded Colbert that every guest deserves a basic level of decency and honesty, especially when an agreement had been made beforehand. He stated that forcing someone into political statements they never agreed to discuss was not journalism, but something entirely different. Colbert fired back sharply, accusing Denzel of being evasive and claiming he wanted the respect of being seen as a moral voice without the consequences. His voice trembled with emotion, and the audience sensed things were reaching a dangerous breaking point. Denzel inhaled deeply, keeping his composure even as the host seemed to lose his own. He explained that he had never proclaimed himself a leader or moral authority. He was simply someone sharing his experiences through his work. Nothing more, nothing less. But Colbert, he said, had chosen to twist that into something it wasn't. The air in the room felt heavy, almost suffocating. Even the cameras seemed unsure whether to continue rolling. Then Colbert made one last push. With a voice filled with rising anger, he challenged Denzel to walk away if he couldn't handle the heat. He suggested that leaving would only prove his point, that Denzel avoided serious issues whenever confronted. It was a bold move, and a reckless one. Denzel turned toward the audience, his voice suddenly calm and focused again, as though he had stepped above the chaos entirely. He announced that he was walking away, not because he couldn't face tough questions, but because he refused to stay in an environment built on hidden intentions and disrespect. The audience stared, stunned. No one had ever seen anything like this on Colbert's stage. Before leaving, Denzel addressed the viewers watching at home. He expressed regret that the conversation had turned into something so far from what he intended. He told them he hoped they would judge the film on its own merit and understand the heart behind it. As he spoke, Colbert's frustration returned sharply. He interrupted, accusing Denzel of promoting his movie after insulting him. His voice shook, revealing just how rattled he truly was. Denzel slowly turned his head back toward the host, his expression cool and piercing. He stated that he was simply doing what professionals do, fulfilling a commitment, respecting the work of the team behind the film, and speaking honestly. The contrast between the two men in that moment was striking. Colbert attempted to counter again, claiming Denzel had acted superior from the moment he stepped onto the stage. He accused him of avoiding real-world issues, claiming everyone else had to face them except him. The accusation hit the room like a sudden drop in temperature. Denzel's voice finally showed signs of controlled anger. He talked about the real world he grew up in, the one where respect mattered, where a person's word meant everything, and where dignity wasn't something you threw away for entertainment. He contrasted that with what was happening on the stage, calling it a version of reality far removed from honesty. The audience shifted uncomfortably. Some leaned forward in fascination, others looked away. Everyone knew they were witnessing something historic, but deeply uncomfortable. Colbert tried one more time to assert control. He told Denzel that if he walked off, he shouldn't expect to return to the show again. The statement was sharp and defensive, revealing more about the host's own emotions than anything else. Denzel paused at the edge of the stage and turned back slowly. His expression had changed to something sadder, more reflective. He told Colbert he wasn't trying to be a hero. He was simply trying to be a man who respected himself enough to know when to walk away. He suggested that Colbert might want to consider the same someday. The line landed with chilling precision. Some audience members covered their mouths, unsure whether to react. Colbert's face twisted with shock and embarrassment, his emotional state unraveling in real time. "Get out," he said, his voice cracking. He demanded security, though no one made a move. Denzel was already walking off on his own, carrying himself with the same dignity he had walked in with. At the edge of the stage, Denzel addressed the audience once more. He explained that he had come to share something meaningful, something created with heart and purpose. Instead, what they all witnessed was a host abandoning respect for spectacle. Colbert tried to interrupt, but Denzel's voice cut through cleanly. He stated that the audience came for entertainment, not to watch someone get torn down for sport. And with that final statement, he stepped backstage, disappearing from the spotlight. The studio was silent. Colbert stood alone behind his desk, his hands shaking. The realization of what had just happened was beginning to settle over him like a heavy shadow. For several long seconds, Colbert didn't move. His expression shifted between disbelief and anger, as if he couldn't quite grasp that the interview had collapsed right in front of him. His producers frantically signaled from behind the cameras, trying to help him recover, but he seemed frozen, lost in the moment he had unintentionally created. When the show finally cut to a commercial break, chaos erupted backstage. Colbert immediately demanded answers from his team. His voice carried through the studio corridors as he questioned how things had gone so wrong. He insisted that he had simply asked direct questions, but his producers didn't agree. One of the senior producers, a veteran who had seen every kind of disaster television could offer, explained bluntly that the interview spiraled because Colbert had pushed too hard for too long. The producer reminded him that calling Denzel a coward and repeatedly questioning his faith had created a situation that no guest would tolerate. The words hit Colbert harder than he expected. Colbert's face tightened with frustration as he argued back. He insisted that Denzel had refused to answer simple questions and that the audience deserved honest conversation. But the producer stated clearly that there was a difference between honesty and an ambush. It was a conversation Colbert did not want to hear, and his anger only deepened. Meanwhile, backstage, Denzel's team surrounded him with a mixture of concern and quiet admiration. His publicist rushed over, apologizing repeatedly for what happened, insisting that she had no idea Colbert planned to go in that direction. Denzel assured her it wasn't her fault. He simply said, "Some people reveal who they truly are when the cameras are rolling." His agent, who had worked with him for years, watched him with pride. Even in the middle of that explosive confrontation, Denzel had kept his composure. He had protected his integrity, something few actors managed in situations like that. The atmosphere around him was tense, but filled with respect. Back on set, the break ended, and Colbert was forced to continue the show without any time to recover emotionally. When the cameras returned, he attempted to deliver his next lines, But the 80s spark that usually guided his performance was nowhere to be found. His jokes landed flat. His timing was off. Even the musical guest segment felt awkward and strained. Audience members slowly began leaving during the next commercial break. People who had waited months for tickets suddenly felt uncomfortable staying after witnessing such a harsh confrontation. The energy that normally filled the room had evaporated, replaced by lingering shock. By the time the show ended, the entire production team understood the gravity of what had happened. The confrontation was already being clipped, shared, and discussed online. Within minutes, social media timelines filled with reactions. Some viewers were stunned, others outraged, and many couldn't believe they had just seen a legend like Denzel Washington walk off live television. The hashtag #DenzelWalksOut skyrocketed, quickly becoming one of the most talked about topics of the night. People debated what had led to the explosion. Some supported Colbert, but a much larger wave defended Denzel, emphasizing how calm and respectful he had remained despite the pressure he faced. The next morning, the consequences came crashing down. News outlets covered the confrontation across their front pages. Headlines questioned Colbert's professionalism, his motives, and whether he had gone too far. Talk shows discussed the incident, and audiences everywhere analyzed every second of the heated exchange. Colbert's ratings took an immediate hit. Advertisers contacted the network with concerns about the episode. Industry insiders began whispering about whether Colbert could recover from such a public backlash. In an age where reputation could shift overnight, this moment was catastrophic. Denzel, meanwhile, carried on with quiet dignity. When reporters asked him for comment, he gave a short, composed reply. He wished Colbert well and expressed hope that the host would learn from the experience. He shifted the focus back to his work, highlighting the film he had intended to discuss on the show. Ironically, the movie's opening weekend became even more successful. Many viewers said they felt moved by how Denzel carried himself during the confrontation and wanted to support his work. Critics praised the film even more intensely, noting the message of redemption in contrast to the tension on the talk show. Hollywood insiders took notice too. They admired the poise Denzel showed under pressure, recognizing how rare it was for a public figure to maintain such grace during an unexpected ambush. His reputation for integrity only grew stronger. Colbert, on the other hand, faced internal scrutiny. Network executives questioned the decision to allow the interview to escalate. They discussed the damage the incident had caused, not only to the show, but to the network's reputation as well. The fallout was bigger than anyone had expected. Behind the scenes, producers debated how to address the situation publicly. They considered issuing statements, clarifying the structure of the interview, or even apologizing. But every option carried risk, and Colbert's emotional reaction made navigating the aftermath even more complicated. Fans of the show expressed disappointment. Some demanded accountability. Others pointed out that Denzel had remained respectful even when he was being pressured. The contrast between the two men became a major talking point online. In the days that followed, the confrontation was replayed endlessly across social media platforms. Analysts broke down every expression, every shift in tone, every moment of tension. People discussed the deeper themes: faith, pressure, integrity, respect, and the expectations placed on public figures. It became clear that this was more than a viral moment. It was a cultural moment. Denzel's quiet strength during the confrontation became a focal point of admiration. His refusal to be pushed into a role he did not choose resonated with many people who had felt pressured in their own lives. His calm decision to walk away became symbolic. Colbert, meanwhile, struggled to regain the trust of his audience. The incident exposed a side of him viewers were not used to seeing: aggressive, impatient, and willing to abandon kindness for the sake of confrontation. It shook the image he had spent years cultivating. In the end, the clash between Denzel Washington and Stephen Colbert became more than just heated television. It became a lesson, a reminder of the difference between real dignity and performative outrage, between someone standing firm in who they are and someone trying too hard to become a hero in the eyes of a crowd. One man walked off that stage with his integrity untouched. The other was left standing there, surrounded by cameras, trying to understand how everything had gone so wrong. As the days passed, the shockwaves from the confrontation only grew stronger. Entertainment networks replayed the footage endlessly, each one highlighting different angles and analyzing the tension between the two men. What many viewers noticed most was not the argument itself, but the striking contrast between their reactions. Denzel's quiet discipline stood out against Colbert's rising frustration, creating a divide in public opinion that felt impossible to ignore. Commentators on morning shows and online platforms began questioning whether late-night interviews were becoming more about controversy than conversation. They wondered why a guest promoting a film had been pushed into a corner he never agreed to enter. Even people who didn't usually watch late-night television had something to say about the moment. Meanwhile, Denzel continued attending press events, interviews, and screenings with the same composed energy he always carried. Reporters often asked about the incident, but he never fed the frenzy. He simply shifted the conversation back to the film, the work, and the message behind it. That calm response only strengthened the respect people felt for him. The movie, boosted by the unexpected attention, continued to perform well. Audiences praised its emotional depth, its message, and its artistry. Many also commented on how surreal it was that a film about forgiveness had become connected to such an intense public disagreement. Colbert eventually returned to his show with a noticeably more cautious tone. He attempted to move forward, but the emotional imprint of that night lingered. Some loyal viewers remained supportive, but a significant portion admitted they felt differently about him now. Trust, once shaken, didn't return easily. Industry insiders quietly reflected on what the confrontation revealed, not only about the host, but about the culture of entertainment itself. The moment had peeled back a curtain, exposing how far some were willing to go for a dramatic reaction. It sparked conversations about fairness, respect, and the responsibility that comes with having a public platform. As the noise began to settle, the story of that night took on a larger meaning. People weren't just talking about an argument. They were talking about composure, integrity, and the cost of turning interviews into battlegrounds. And slowly, the conversation shifted away from the spectacle and toward what the moment truly symbolized. In the end, the memory of Denzel Washington walking off that stage didn't fade. It became a reminder of the power of standing up for yourself without shouting, of choosing dignity over chaos, and of walking away from situations that no longer honor who you are. And in that quiet, unforgettable exit, the audience discovered the real difference between creating noise and showing true strength.